Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy.
What you got for me today there, Claire Bear?
Today's piece of shit is Sharon Kinne. Disgustingly, the papers will actually call her the Purdiest defendant to go on trial in Missouri. So now you know the where, and our when will be the 60s. So as per our usual, we're going to rewind, and Sharon was born in the end of 1939 to Eugene and Doris Hall. Now, by the time Sharon is in junior high, the family moves to Washington State, but then when she turns 15, they end up moving back to Missouri. When they move back is when she meets her soon-to-be husband, James Kinne, at a church function. Oh my God, Andrea.
A church function. I know we've knocked the church and how people done hide behind there, but I didn't know we were calling it function.
They meet at a church function. You dick. Anyway, she's 16 years old when they meet, and James is a 22-year-old college student. I did the same thing, because I was like, I don't know about you, but if I had a 16-year-old daughter, I wouldn't want her dating an experienced 22-year-old college feller.
No.
But anyway, they meet at that church function, and they start dating that summer of 1956 until James returns to school in the fall. Now, Sharon didn't like that now they're separated, so she seemed like it was a good idea to cling to someone who could take her away from her home life and would write letters to James telling him she was pregnant by him. Now, James would get these letters and would leave school and come back to marry Sharon that October right before her 17th birthday.
Was she really pregnant?
We'll get there. Their marriage license...
I mean, she's not.
Their marriage license would list Sharon as being an 18-year-old widow, and Sharon would claim she had been married before in Washington, but the man was a truck driver and he died in a car accident, to which I was like, what? He knows she's not 18.
Well,
and then confused. I was like, I don't
Who's
feel
that
like...
story for?
I don't know. I have no earthly idea. But it's just like, maybe he's stupid enough to think... Maybe he's stupid enough to think that she is 18 since he was fucking around with her.
Where are her parents?
Apparently, they were happy to see her go.
Apparently so, because apparently she's a liar, to say it the nice way, because she's...
So she's described as a wild child, so I feel like they were just happy to be done with her. And I don't know...
Good luck, feller. We'll sign off on this here marriage. Yeah, she's already 18.
Did you say
Take
they
her.
Please. Sign off on this divorce, is what you're about to say. I don't know if maybe they figured since they met at the church function and just whatever, that'd be fine.
No, I think it sounds like you had it right. It was a church fucking.
Now, anyway, that's how they would describe her on the marriage license, but I did the whole... So, just because you lie on a marriage license, wouldn't that mean their marriage wasn't legal to begin with? She's not 18, just because you lie on it and you get a marriage certificate that's fraudulent. So,
well, and because she's under 18, she's therefore not allowed to sign a contract. Go into a contractual obligation such as marriage. And yeah, I would assume that means their marriage is null and void.
Right, so that was my thought process.
Does that mean he's like in the free and clear for like...
Hold up. Hold your panties. That they would get married, but they wouldn't have a formal wedding until the next year. So I would imagine they had to have known at some point that it wasn't real. However, they did things weird in the 60s, so it's possible that everybody was like, it's all right. But anyway, they would do a formal wedding the next year after Sharon completed the process of joining his church, the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Apparently, it's a year-long process to convert, which made me curious, what church function did they meet at? So, anyway,
Did you find an answer on that one?
Sure fucking didn't, Andrea. But I'm just going to say, she took a year to join his church, and then they had a formal wedding. Now, after their wedding, they would both move to Utah so James could continue his studies, but he would put that on hold again in the fall semester, and they would return back to Missouri. They would both get jobs, Sharon working as a babysitter and tending shops, while James worked as an electrical engineer. I bet at this point you're wondering what happened to that pregnancy that kicked off this whole marriage.
Sure am.
She would tell James that she miscarried the child, but it wouldn't take long before she was pregnant again, if you can say again. And she would give birth the fall of 1957 to a little girl that they would name Dana. Now, I thought that was an interesting. I don't think she was ever pregnant.
No, she was hoping she'd get knocked up, and then when she started her period, she just passed it off like she miscarried. Yeah. Women can be shady. It ain't funny. It ain't cool. You shouldn't have to trap your feller.
No. Because the way I did the math in is they were married a little over a year. So just like, it's possible. I don't think it was. I think she just wanted out of town. And she knew him being a God-fearing man, that if she told him she was pregnant, he'd come back and do right by her and make her an honest woman. Or really a child, because that's what she was.
And it didn't make her too honest since she started off lying.
Mm-hmm. Now, James would begin working nights to provide for the family, and Sharon would be at home during the day and would enjoy spending money on lavish things because she expected finer things out of life, and she was determined to get them. Now, soon, Sharon would start having an affair with multiple different men, and by the time she has their second child, a boy named Troy, she would start seeing a feller regularly that she went to high school with named John Bolds. Now, it's around early 1960 that James starts considering divorce, because between Sharon burning through their money and his suspicions of her cheating, he's kind of reaching the point of, I imagine he feels trapped because that's what he was. Yeah. Now, James would tell his parents about wanting to get divorced on March 18th, 1960, saying Sharon agreed to divorce him if she could keep the house, custody of the kids, and he would agree to pay her $1,000 a month alimony. To which I was
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's everything. That's like, okay, well, you just go on your way and I'll continue doing all my things like I have been. Now, his parents were devout Mormons and urged him to stay in the marriage. So I guess that's what he ultimately decides to do. Apparently, though, James wasn't the only one who wanted out of the marriage. Sharon apparently offered her side piece, John, $1,000 to kill her husband or find someone who would. Now, he claimed he wasn't sure she was serious and had figured she was joking at the time.
Joke's on him.
Now, the day after James spoke of divorce to his parents, March 19th, police are called to their suburban home in Independence, Missouri, with a report of a man being shot to death. The frantic 911 call was placed by Sharon, who would state that she heard a gunshot and went running into the bedroom to find the couple's 2.5-year-old daughter, Dana, had picked up her father's .22 pistol while he was sleeping and accidentally pulled the trigger, hitting him in the head and killing him. James was dead by the time the ambulance arrived at the hospital. Police investigators struggled with believing this story, but didn't have any evidence other than the version that Sharon had stuck with. Especially when she...
gunshot residue?
Especially when she told police she had heard her daughter ask from the kitchen, "How does this thing work, Daddy?" Then a gunshot, and she went running. To which I did a 2.5-year-old. So they were unable to recover fingerprints from the well-oiled gun. A paraffin test for gunshot residue was not performed on either Dana or Sharon. I don't know why, other than shitty investigating. Now, multiple people, family, and neighbors would say that James would allow Dana to play with guns, which I did like, well, what? She's 2.5. Like, she's still shitting her pants. Maybe let's save the gun safety lessons and all until she can master walking well.
Or master using the potty.
Right, all the things. I don't feel like she needs to be handling a firearm at 2. But officers did provide Dana with a similar gun that killed her father, and she was able to pull the trigger, to which I also went, they did what?
What is with these police officers? That's like them taking your piece of soap lady down to the morgue and having her like, dismember a body? Move a body. Yeah.
Yeah. So they wanted to see if it was possible for her to pull the trigger, which she was able to pull the trigger. So she does go on trial for the murder of her husband, but she is acquitted. Now,
wait, they still tried to charge her?
They sure did.
Huh.
I think other than they didn't feel like she was telling the truth, but they really couldn't go off anything. And I really think they didn't think the little girl was going to be able to pull the trigger. And when she was able to, they were kind of like, ew.
I wonder what his family thought.
We'll get there. Now, the pistol was never returned to Sharon, despite her best effort to get it back. Which I don't know why you would want it back. I can tell you I wouldn't want it back. I'd be like, no, I got a two-year-old that knows how to use it. And when they throw a tantrum, I'd be worried she'd seek it out. She's a sharp shooter. Assuming it happened.
She don't want to use that potty.
Assuming it happened as she said. Now, the other side of that one...
Bedtime my ass, Ma.
Now, on either side, whether she accidentally did shoot her dad, which I don't believe she did, that's super sad for her to grow up, that she accidentally shot her dad and killed him. And then on the other side of that is if her mom did it and blamed her, that's also some fucked up things to deal with as a growing up child.
She won't remember, so as far as she knows, she did it.
Yeah, but it would be whatever she's told. So that's why I'm saying that even if her mom did it, to be led to believe you did it is super fucked up. Either way, she doesn't have her paw.
I know it makes me sound like an awful person, but I feel like if I was in that position and my 2.5-year-old actually killed my husband, I would totally raise my 2.5-year-old to believe one of two things. One, an intruder did it. Or two, it was suicide by your hand, sweet pea, because the second your Paul gave you that there gun, he's an idiot.
Well, I didn't understand if he was working nights, why she put the baby in the bedroom with him. He's not watching her. He's trying to sleep. So
her boyfriend wouldn't kill her husband, so she hired her 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, she's
Turns out she didn't need $1,000. She just needed a diaper change.
She's like, here you go. Here's the gun. Point it this way. Like, there you go. I'm going to go in here. But anyway, Sharon tries to get the gun back, to which she never gets it back. So she asks a male coworker friend to buy her a .22 pistol. Now, the friend does just that, but registers it in her name. She asked that he re-register it. In the 60s, evidently you could. But she asks him to re-register it in his name, which he does. Which I was like,
she's
why?
Not that pretty. You done sent me a picture.
I know,
she's pretty, but she ain't that pretty. Right. Somebody that's done had their significant other killed with a gun, I am certainly not putting in my name.
But I feel like since she had many affairs with many men, she might be doing something else. Anyway.
Well, unless he wants it in his hiney hole because he goes to jail because of another murder, I suggest you don't register a weapon in someone else's that belongs to someone else in your name. But that's just me.
So I feel like she was playing off of the whole now she's a single mother all by herself and she has nothing to defend herself ploy. And
I understand the purchasing. I don't understand the registering.
I don't know either, but we'll get there. But James's death is ruled an accidental homicide, and Sharon would receive a $29,000 life insurance policy. She would then move her family to Kansas City, and buy herself a powder blue Thunderbird with AC. And in the 60s, that was pretty serious. Now, she
did something responsible with that money.
She got more than just a car that day. She started an affair with the salesman who sold it to her, a Walter Jones. Their relationship would run hot and cold for the next 3 months. Now, Walter...
You know what it is? No. You know what it is?
Huh.
The price of that car got so jacked up that she was going to get her money back in one way, shape, or form. Whether it be going out to dinner or whatever, she's going to get that extra money back.
She's like, a down payment? Really? Is that the best you can do? Anyway, now a little bit about Walter. He had married his high school sweetheart, and even though he had a wandering eye, he had no interest in leaving his wife and the 2 children they had together. Now, Sharon...
I'm sorry, but did he start poking his penis where it didn't belong?
He sure fucking did. But he doesn't want to leave his wife either. He just likes to run around town.
That's super gross.
It is. But it's also the 60s, and we know what happens when we get into the 70s and the 80s, so...
That's when everybody starts getting mad and doing the killings. And then they're told, you get life in prison, and you only go for a month.
So I think he didn't want to divorce his wife because she worked for the IRS. So I'm just throwing that out there. He's a used car salesman, and his wife works for the IRS. I can see where he doesn't want that to be an issue. However, just let her find out you're sleeping around, fella, and things will be bad too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't feel like that's much better. I feel like, if anything, that's worse. I think if Jason told me he wanted a divorce and we got divorced, yeah, I'm not going to be too happy about it. But if I were to find out that he's poking somebody else with his penis and then sticking it in me, I'd be fucking livid.
Right. Well, Sharon, I don't know if she's just delusional, but there'll be times that he does spend the night with her at a hotel. And she'll pay for the hotel. That's what I didn't understand. Now, Walter would be like, sometimes she wouldn't come home either if they got into a fight. So I guess that was just something that was like, I don't know why it was okay. But yeah, that it was like, they might come home in the wee hours.
Be cheating too.
I don't know what that situation was, but I thought it was weird that they would spend the night at one time in a hotel. She'd pay for the hotel, but he's married. I get she's not, but and I also was like, where did she leave her children? Put me a mackerel in the sea,
people. Stop going after the married ones.
Well, anyway, I guess because he got to spend the night with her, she's like, hey, you want to go on a trip to Washington State with me to visit my family in May? And he's like, yeah, no. So she gets mad, and she's like, fine, I'm just going to go with my brother then. And he's all like, okay, go then. And she's like, well, we're broke up. And she leaves. Now, she returns May 25th. Now, when she does get back, she invites him over to her house that night she gets back. Now, he thinks it's because he borrowed $100 from her before she left, and she wants it back.
So he's not a good salesman, is what you're telling me.
I don't know what he needed $100 for, but it's like, she already paid for the hotel room. But anyway, that's what he... You
should have got him a nice commission off that car.
That's what he figures she wants when he goes over there. But when he gets over there...
Not his Pepe?
Yeah, no. When he gets over there, Sharon tells him that she's pregnant, or she's pretty sure she's pregnant, and she wants to know what he's going to do about it. And he replies, I told her to wait and see what happened. I told her it was all over between us. Now, instead of divorcing his wife and marrying Sharon like she wanted, Walter didn't want to deceive his wife any longer, so things were really over between them. Spoiler, their daughter would be born 8 months later.
Ooh, so she really was pregnant?
She was, because at first when I read that one of she told him she's pregnant, I was like, she's doing this again.
She's like, this doesn't work the first time. Yeah. See if it'll work the second. Apparently she's really with child. Poor child.
She was. Now Sharon was furious since she was planning on him being her second husband and threatened revenge. The very next day, Sharon calls Walter's wife Patricia at her office and told her that Walter was having an affair with Sharon's sister. Only Sharon doesn't have a sister, by the way. So now Sharon says she wants to meet with Patricia that evening to discuss the matter further because she doesn't want to bother her at work. You just did, lady. So
yeah, you just dropped one hell of a bomb on her at work. What? And it's not even truthful.
I know, I like that.
It sounds like she chickened out, or she's setting it up to be like, I heard my sister is done having an affair with your husband, and it's real bad, and I don't think it's right. I need to meet up with you, and then she's gonna kill the wife.
So, or the whole, you should leave him. He's a disgusting pig. And then she does, and then she swoops in. Although he's already said he's done with her.
But that's because he's married to an IRS lady, and he's scared.
Well, this brings us to that evening, or the evening of the 26th.
I really would like to know how that went after she got off of work.
I'm gonna tell you.
Because I would have gone and confronted the dear old Walter and been like, listen here, Pepe Le Pew. We got some discussings to be doing.
I'm sure that's the way it would have gone down. That brings us to the evening of May 26, 1961, when Walter walks into a Kansas City police station to report his wife, Patricia, missing. Now, Patricia's a 23-year-old mother of two. Both Walter and Patricia had left for work that morning, and by early evening, Walter would get a call from the woman who cares for their children to ask why Patricia hadn't picked up their kids yet. Now, Walter and Patricia had previously argued, and he was too embarrassed to tell her that, so he asked if the children could spend the night because Patricia was having her hair done. To which I did the whole, how long does it take to get your hair done that it needs to be... Well, it's just like, he is not a good liar because when put on the spot, she's getting her hair done. Can they spend the night?
All night?
But like I said, I think because they were used to the whole, maybe they were home, maybe they weren't. He just figured she was still super mad at him. And this was how she was getting back at him. I don't know what they argued about. But
right.
He wouldn't get home
until... So why didn't he go pick up his kids?
He wouldn't get home until 9 p.m. and Patricia still wasn't home. To which I did the whole, okay, so you're not selling cars at 9 p.m. So why was he home at 9 p.m.? Now, he does say that they would frequently argue about him arriving home late, which I would agree. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
He would say he would get hung up with customers, but I say he's fucking them all.
Yeah, getting hung up does not mean that you get hung up with your penis stuck in somebody. That's not a thing.
Yeah. Now, he's at the police station trying to report her missing, right? But the police are kind of doing the whole, yeah, she has to be missing over 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. And unfortunately, Walter doesn't have to wait 24 hours. He starts calling all the people he could think of who would have seen her that day to try to track down when she disappeared. He gets a lead
when we didn't fight. We really didn't fight yet. I don't know why she's mad at me. I need her to beat me in the skull and tell me why. Which affair did she done find out about?
Now, he gets a lead when one of Patricia's friends that she carpools with to work told him that she got a call from some lady who wanted to meet with her. Patricia had asked her friend to drop her off at a street corner to meet with the woman who wanted to talk to her about Walter. And that's what the friend said she did. Now, the carpool waited until Patricia waved and said it was okay for them to go, that she was going to go with this lady in her car. The people in the carpool, they saw the woman but didn't know who she was and saw Patricia get into the car. And they actually even sneaky followed them for a short bit before they were feeling foolish and didn't want to get spotted, so they drive home. Now, Walter was immediately suspicious when he heard the description of the woman that Patricia got into the car with. Walter would call up Sharon and ask if she had seen his wife that day. She admits that they did meet up with her to talk, but she dropped her off near their home and then saw her go over and talk to some man in a green 1957 Ford. And I thought that was super weirdly specific. I've never looked at a car and been like, you know what that is? That's a 57 Ford. And it's green.
Yeah, no. I don't know my cars like that.
No, I could see it being like a green Ford, but specifically a year. she's not too good of a liar either. Now, Walter must have figured that was bullshit also. Walter goes over to Sharon's house late that Friday and even goes as far as putting a knife to her throat, asking where Patricia was.
That seems kind of hostile.
Sure fucking was.
I realize his wife is missing, but here's a thought. If you weren't sleeping around, this wouldn't be a non-issue, dude.
Yeah. Now, Patricia's body would be found later that night. Any guesses who finds her?
Sharon.
Ding ding. Now, Sharon would claim that she went out looking for Patricia after Walter had left her, and she was just real concerned.
What?
So she calls up
How
her
is
boy.
she looking for her if she's never met her?
She's
just walking around. Excuse me, is your name Sharon or is your name Patricia? Excuse me, ma'am. Is your name Patricia? Are you mad at your husband because he's been cheating on you? Excuse me.
Keep in mind, she just admitted to Walter that she had met up with her that day.
Whatever.
But she had dropped her off, so she's only met her the once, but she's super worried for her. But she calls up her boyfriend she had been sleeping with, the one that even when she was married, that feller John, and asks him to help look for her friend that she couldn't reach all day. Now, initially, her and John start driving all over town looking for her, and then Sharon suggests that it might be a good idea to check the side roads around the quarry in case she was parked with someone. John refused to go snooping on someone, especially if they're out parking, because, they're usually doing the nasty in the woods. So he's like, how about we go do some parking of our own, though? Winkety wink.
No, what it is he was tired of driving around. He was like,
I thought this was going to be... Yeah, I thought this was going to be a date, and this ain't fun anymore. Now, according to John, he had been the one to suggest the particular area that they go to, not Sharon, because it had been an area they frequently had their dates, which I used dates loosely. And when they pull into the area, his headlights pick up the body of Patricia. At that point, Sharon exclaims, "Is that Pat? I bet that's her." At that point, John wanted to get out of there and call the cops, but Sharon pleaded, saying, "Well, take me home first. Don't implicate me, because I'm probably the last one who saw her alive." He didn't refuse her, and it wasn't until 1 a.m. when John reports his findings to the police.
Wait, when did they find her? How much time passed?
It was at night, so somewhere around like the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock mark would be my guess.
That's a long time to just... I know she's dead, but that's a long time to just leave her body chilling in the woods or on a side road.
Well, I feel like he had to drop her back off and then figure out whatever his story was. And maybe he didn't initially plan on going to the police.
Yeah, what it is he took her home and they had sex.
Probably so. He does eventually call the police. They do go out there. Now they find Patricia. She's dressed in a black sweater and a yellow skirt, which is what everybody later will describe of what they last saw her in. Now, she had been shot with a .22 caliber pistol 4 times, a rough cross pattern starting at the top of each shoulder, one going into her upper lip, and then into her stomach. Yeah, now, powder burns on... Yeah, shot in the face. Powder burns on the hemline of her skirt indicated that the gun was fired at close range, and she was not raped. The killing shot was through her mouth at an upward angle. Her time of death was estimated to be around 9 p.m. on the 27th. Now, as much as John would try to leave Sharon's name out of it, he didn't have a good story without involving her of why he was out there in the middle of the night. Now, as soon as he does mention Sharon's name, and they're already familiar with her since just 3 months earlier, her husband was shot supposedly by her daughter.
Wait, it's only been 3 months?
Dude, that's why I was telling you that, right after she gets the life insurance and then skedaddles on out of town and buys her a Thunderbird, she starts fucking the salesman, and that relationship only lasts 3 months, so...
Holy moly.
She moves quickly, I'll say that. But naturally, when her name comes up, they're doing again? This lady, what is she doing that, it's not good if you're on their radar all the time. But naturally, investigators don't buy Sharon's story, so they ask her to take a polygraph, which she refuses, only fueling officers' suspicions. Because, she's clinging to the story of she just went out to help to find Patricia. Now, John and Walter both agree to take the lie detector test, and both men pass. Also, as soon as they find out that Walter has been running around with other women and that one of those women was Sharon, that only heightens their suspicion that...
Hold on, I'm confused. I thought that Walter and Sharon had a baby.
I told you, spoiler alert. She tells him she's pregnant, but I'm just telling you, they do later. She has a baby. She's still...
Oh, so she's only like 4 months along at this point. I gotcha. I thought baby was already born.
No, that's why I was doing the spoiler. So the night before Patricia dies is when she tells him she thinks she might be pregnant. She's not sure though, and he tells her, well, let's wait and see, but we're done either way. And then the next morning, she calls Patricia at work and then says, hey, your husband is having an affair with my sister. I think we should meet up and talk. I don't want to bother you. And then, so it's just like she's still in the process of, I feel like she's like 5-6 weeks pregnant situation. I was just spoiling it for you that she does later have their baby. So,
well, she has also a boyfriend though. How do you know it's his? It could be the boyfriend's.
Maybe she wasn't sleeping with him as regular. I don't know, other than she picked him out as her second husband and was upset that he refused her. Because here's a thought, maybe pick somebody who's single or marry your boyfriend.
He's poor.
Probably so. But if he's having to borrow money from her, it's probably not,
probably because he doesn't want his wife, who's apparently good with the numbers and the math, and that he don't want her to know that he's spending extra money.
That's why she had to pay for the hotel room.
Well, maybe the gas money. Maybe she's keeping tabs on what his mileage is. I don't know. You don't know. All I know is she didn't want to marry the boyfriend, and I'm going to say the baby belongs to the boyfriend.
Well, regardless, as soon as the investigators find out that Sharon is one of the women Walter's been running around with, and the fact that Sharon found Patricia's body, all of it looks super suspicious. And then also to find out that Sharon had a 22, that like they're doing the whole, this bitch did it. Now,
because she did.
Yeah. While investigators are questioning these three, other investigators process the crime scene and even go as far as dragging the bottom of all the nearby bodies of water in hopes to find the gun that shot Patricia. Unfortunately, they can't locate it. They then find out that the whole Sharon finding that or purchasing that pistol that happened to be the same caliber that it shot Patricia with. Now, when they ask Sharon about the gun that she recently purchased, she claims she lost it when she went to Washington, or one of her relatives had it. She also couldn't recall what the make of the pistol was. Now, police ask relatives, who would say they recall her placing it in a box and sliding it under the seat of her car before she left. So then they go back to her, and she's all, I must have lost it when I got back then. Now, at that point, they arrested and charged Sharon with Patricia's death. Sharon is only 21 years old. I know, she's had a full life.
I thought, wow.
Now keep in mind, she wasn't even 18 when she got married.
Yeah. And she's already got 2 kids, or just the one?
2. So the one had...
Plus one on the way.
Right. The media would say she was the prettiest defendant to be tried for murder in Kansas City. Now, she was released on a $20,000 bond to await trial, which would end up delayed because of her advancing pregnancy, which I thought was odd because she doesn't give birth until January. So I feel like she could have been fine to stand trial within that period, but whatever.
Her lawyer's done well, it's the 60s, and they were super concerned because all that their stress, and if his client was in fact innocent, it was undue stress to that poor little innocent fetus, so they needed to delay things.
Which I do think that's why she was allowed to be released, because she has 2 young children, and then she got to do the whole, I'm pregnant, she can't be in jail. And you figure this is still the point of time when the men folk don't think the ladies can do a lot of the murderings. But so spend that year trying to build a case against Sharon, which I also feel like they didn't have too strong a one. They don't have a gun. They don't have anybody spotting her other than she's admitted to being with her earlier that day, but she says she dropped her off. Now, the gun that was the one her friend had purchased for her had been pre-owned. So the police tracked down the previous owner, who happened to be a pilot that would target practice and they go out to his property and locate a tree that he would hang a target over and actually cut down the tree to get the bullet out to match against the ones pulled from Patricia. Unfortunately, they don't match.
Oh, shit.
Well, so it could be one of those using different bullets, I don't know what the case would be. It could be also them being in the tree for so long that
could also
a number of different issues that it doesn't eliminate it as
a gun.
Right. It could be a different gun. There's a number of things. It would have been great if they matched because that would have been fantastic.
Open shut, yeah.
However, that little tidbit makes reasonable doubt a possibility. Now, an all-male jury would vote to acquit Sharon after a 10-day-long trial, regardless of the fact that she had motive, opportunity, and was the one to discover the body. The jury felt there were too many loopholes and not enough evidence to convict, so she walks out of court a free woman.
I hate to say it, but they're right.
Yeah. Her celebrations would be short-lived because the prosecution decided to bring charges in her husband's death. This trial, she was found guilty of her husband's death. Once the jury was gone, though, Sharon and her attorney approached the bench. Her attorney stated she had now 3 small children at home to care for, and they reminded the judge that she had previously been out on bond to await trial. So they wanted to do the same thing, awaiting her
sentencing.
Well, between her sentencing and then he was going to do an appeal anyway. Now the judge was all, I'll think about it and decide later if bail will be permitted, and release Sharon to the deputy. To which Sharon goes, will it be before this evening? And the judge was all, it will not be. Her case was overturned on appeal due to procedural errors with the jury, so she'd be tried a second and a third time, but those resulted in a mistrial and a hung jury. Now, Sharon's in-laws were supportive of her and couldn't find it in their hearts to say anything bad about her and didn't believe she'd committed murder, not of their son or of Patricia. So they stick behind her.
Well, that's prosecutors, super awkward.
Prosecutors, however, announced that they're going to try again, and they will be proceeding with a 4th trial, which would be scheduled for October 1964. Meanwhile, Sharon is free on a $25,000 bond with few restrictions that was posted by her brother. So she moves in with her mother, and her children are left with James's father, so her husband, which made it possible for her to take a trip to Mexico.
Her husband?
For her dead one, James.
Wait, who have her kids?
The grandpa, James's father.
Oh. I thought you said the kid's father. I was like, what?
James's father.
Gotcha. Continue.
So since she now basically has no obligations any way, shape, or form, she decides to go to Mexico to see her latest lover in September, a Sam Pugliese. She travels there.
What is his name?
Samuel Pugliese.
Pugliese? Like Fuglies, but with a P?
I'm honestly going to tell you I don't know how to spell fugly, so...
You know, when we were kids, U-G-L-Y, you ain't
I was thinking Pugsley, like as in Wednesday Addams and Pugsley.
Oh, yeah, that works too.
Anyway, she travels to Mexico pretending to be his wife. Now, she's traveling by herself, so don't get confused. But she's traveling under a fake name, Jeanette Pugsley. Now, she'll claim later that she was traveling to Mexico to marry Sam. Now, they do register at the local hotel as husband and wife, and she would say that she did bring a pistol because traveling in a foreign country made her feel unsafe. Sharon and Sam, I'm just going to tell you, have a volatile relationship. And on the evening of September 18th, it came to a peak. They were running out of money, so they either were arguing about that or that Sharon needed to get her some meds, which also required money. Regardless, they argue, and Sharon storms out of the hotel and off to the local bar, where she begins a conversation with Francisco Paredes Ordonez. I know I butchered that, but we're just going to call him Francisco either way. He's a Mexican-born American. She ends up leaving that bar with Francisco when he invites her back to his hotel room at Hotel La Vada, According to Sharon, she left because he offered to show her some photographs that he had in his hotel room, to which I rolled my eyes hardcore on that one, because she's going to pretend that she was just going there for photographs. But then she gets super upset when he puts the moves on her about 30 minutes after being in that hotel room with him. The hotel employee hears gunshots. Enrique Martinez. He runs into the room to investigate, which I thought was also crazy, because I can tell you if I'm working in a hotel and I hear gunshots, I'm not going to barge into the room. No. But he barges in to see what all the gunshots are about, but immediately starts taking fire himself. One bullet hits his shoulder, which causes Enrique to flee, slamming the door, locking it behind him, and trapping the shooter inside. I also thought was weird, because why can you lock someone in a hotel room? I think the lock is supposed to be on the other side.
I'm sitting here going, I'm super scared now. I ain't never going to Mexico.
Yeah, because I did several articles, by the way, said that he fled the room and locked it, locking the shooter inside. And I was like, pretty sure those locks are supposed to be on the other side. Maybe they want to look into that.
I'm pretty sure that's called kidnapping.
But anyway, he slams the door, locks it, traps the shooter. He immediately calls police, who arrive to find Sharon cowering in the dark and Francisco dead from several gunshots to the chest. Now, Sharon didn't try to deny being the shooter, but claimed she was defending herself after Francisco lured her to his room and then forced himself on her. She also would claim she only fired the gun to scare him, but her bullet struck him in the chest and killed him accidentally. So, like, how do you accidentally shoot somebody in the chest several times? Anyway, she's immediately arrested, and police find the gun and 50 cartridges in her purse. Then they searched her hotel room in the other hotel, the one she shared with Sam, and find 2 more guns and even more cartridges.
Tell me one of those guns match the...
Now Sam is arrested without being charged with anything initially, but they later will file charges on him for entering the country illegally and carrying an unlicensed gun. Now, unfortunately for Sharon, the Mexican police don't believe her on her having to fight off that feller, and neither does the judge later at her trial. Now, police theorize that it was the couple's plan for Sharon to go out that evening with the intent of robbery, but Francisco proudly resisted, and then Sharon shot him. Now, she would say she shot Enrique because she feared when he flew into the hotel room, that employee that is, that he too was going to start attacking her, so that's why she shot him. She was just fearing for her life. Now, the couple would be arraigned on September 26th and held for trial. Sharon's Mexican attorney would file a motion saying it was against her constitutional rights for them to hold her for shooting in self-defense, but that request was denied, and she and Sam would go on trial the following summer. Sam would be cleared of all of his charges and deported to the United States. Sharon would be convicted on October 18th of the homicide of Francisco and sentenced to 10 years.
That's it.
Now, when Sharon was told of her sentence length the next day, she said she wasn't worried because she's going to be filing an appeal for her conviction. Instead of overturning the decision, however, they added to her sentence, changing the 10 years to now 13, saying the original sentence was too lenient. Again, made me eye roll because we're going to tack on 3 more. Now it's a suitable punishment.
They're like, this is what you get, making us look at this case again.
Now, interesting tidbit that came out during her trial. The same gun used to shoot Francisco was used to murder Patricia Jones. You know, the one she claims she lost? Now, the shitty part about that is since Patricia was acquitted, double jeopardy was a factor, and she couldn't be retried.
But that's new evidence.
I'm just telling you what they said.
Well, somebody's stupid because that's new evidence. You can be retried on a double jeopardy. Doesn't apply if it's new evidence.
I think because they had tried to introduce the gun and introduce the bullets, they tried to, like, it wasn't technically... Whatever the legal loopholes were, it wasn't considered new evidence because they already had done the bullets from the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like the
finding the actual gun in her possession is new evidence, though.
It won't matter. So keep your panties settled.
They're not unsettled or wadded is where I think you were trying to go with it.
But anyway,
weird.
It just stinks because too little too late. But she probably wished she could trade a Missouri prison for a more than a decade sentence in a Mexican one, though. So bet you're wondering where she is now, because that wasn't a lengthy sentence.
She died in prison?
On December 7th, 1969, she manages to scramble over a prison wall and disappear into the night, never to turn up again.
Whoa.
There are theories that her escape was planned by Francisco's family, and they later killed Sharon and disposed of her body, which would explain why they've never had any trace of her. There's also a theory that she bribed a guard to look the other way while she escaped during an unusual blackout that was reported at the time of her escape. Investigators also found a door that should have been locked, but was found unsecured, which made it super suspicious, but administrators of the prison would state they had too few guards to run the prison, which I laughed at. But the hunt for her would be short-lived, because by the end of December, they had to admit that they ran out of leads to pursue her, because they were trying to find family members, anybody she would have contacted, but they couldn't find where she reached out to anybody, and again, they found no traces of her, but they weren't. The theory was also that since she'd been in Mexico for a few years by that point, she was fluent in Spanish, and then they were like, maybe she went south to start over in Guatemala. But there's never a trace of her. So I agree with the previous one that she's murdered. Or she shriveled up and died in the desert from dehydration and the coyotes ate her. I don't think she's been living it up the rest of her life.
No. What happened to her kids? They just stayed with the grandpa?
Yeah. Now, another interesting side note, which I thought was hilarious. After Sharon escaped, had she been recaptured, she would have only had to serve the remaining chunk she had left, because jailbreak wasn't a crime under Mexican law, so she wouldn't have had time added. Is that not ludicrous? Like, they could have recaptured her, tossed her in jail, she could have tried to escape again, and they would have just kept doing that until she was released. Now,
it's like putting a kid to bed, they hop out of bed 50,000 times. It doesn't add to their bedtime sentencing. Not that it's a sentence, but you know what I'm saying.
But yeah. I just thought it was funny as hell. But 13 years is absurd, but I understand that, well, I wouldn't know personally, but I can hear that Mexican prison time is not fun. I wouldn't think any prison time was, but the United States prisons are cushiony.
Where there's a bow?
Well, you got AC and a mattress. I don't know what goes on in a Mexican prison. Now, if you were wondering about her trial in the United States that was supposed to start, but she was already in Mexico, they revoked her bond and issued a warrant for her arrest. So if she did come back to the United States, as soon as they were aware of that, she would have been arrested there. So really, she had nowhere to go, and them thinking she fled to Guatemala, I don't believe, because she had nothing and no one further south. And I think eventually she would have reached out to her children, which is why I say she died. But anyway, so when they revoked that bond and issued the warrant, the bond company paid the state of Missouri the $25,000 and filed a lawsuit against Sharon's family since her brother was the one who bonded her out.
Sucks.
Which I was like, that is super fucked up. But so I could also see where she doesn't turn her head up in the United States because she just stuck her family with that bill. Not only did they stick the $25,000 to them, they also tacked on, and I don't know what the price was, but the cost of the bail, the lawyer's fees, and searching for Sharon after she escaped the Mexican prison. So that was a lot to dump on your family.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. I ain't never bonded anybody out of jail.
I think it's probably a good idea because, well, I don't know. I guess it's situational. But I can say that sucked for them. Because if she did actually die too, I don't know what the circumstances would have been then. She died. I mean, yeah, she technically didn't go to court. However, she's dead.
It's not really fair that they called in the bond on the brother because they knew where she was. She was incarcerated in another country. That's not her refusal to show up. However, she's in jail someplace else.
She was not allowed to leave the country on that bail. she traveled out of the country under a different name. So
I thought you said there were very few restrictions.
There were very few, so she could travel. However, she traveled under an alias, pretending to be Sam's wife. Turns out, if you're going to be standing trial for murder, they don't just say, "Go on down, have you a trip to Mexico to play the old pickle tickle."
Oh gosh, you're weird. No, but I still, like, they knew where she was. They could confirm that she was in prison. I don't think it's right that they stuck her family with the bill, because, like, in the US, if you've got somebody awaiting trial and they get arrested in another state for something,
but then she escapes.
She goes missing. They can't prove she escaped.
But
if I were her family, I'd be like, no, they did something to her. They can't prove she escaped. It's not like they could prove that she reached out to them.
Yeah, but she still ran away, because when somebody bonds them out, you're putting your name on that of they will appear for trial.
And she may have.
But she didn't.
For murder. Anyway, what's your theory?
My other theory was that maybe she was diddling a guard, since that was seemed to be a pattern of her life. But maybe she also was going to do that was part of her escape, was to pretend that once she got the moves on the guard, then to pretend she was being raped. But then maybe he smushed her and she died, and they made her disappear that way too.
Sounds like a fitting end to a crazy lady. And I feel sorry for her kids. Kinda, not really. A little bit, because their dad is gone, mom is gone.
But the good news is they were all real small when all this happened, so I would hope that they managed to have a normal childhood going forward. I just thought it was some fucked up shenanigans. This one was like a never-ending story.
She's a Black Widow.
Until she died. Only instead poison. Of, I want to suck your blood, you know what she wanted to suck.
She wanted to suck the Pepe.
Okay. That's all I get.
You alright?
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mind-fucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.